Folks, I think I did it. I think I have found the quirkiest, most unique master's degree that at least I've come across so far. Let's see what you think. Welcome back to My Seminary Life. I'm your host, Brandon Knight, and before we get into today's subject, as always, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment. I have a prompt for you here at the end of the episode, but if you want to ever, just drop a comment at any point, go right ahead. So, due to the nature of what I do around here, let's get right into the topic. Due to the nature of what I do around here on the show, it is not uncommon for me to get targeted sponsored ads on Facebook specifically from various colleges, universities, seminaries advertising their tuition rates, enroll at our school, new degree programs, whatever. It's pretty common for me to have those as sponsored ads. And like all of you, whenever those ads come up, I typically just keep scrolling. But I came across one very recently that put my entire life on hold for a whole hour as I dug deeper into it. And now here I am recording an entire YouTube video for it. Because folks, I have discovered that Sanitary University is now offering a Master of Arts in Happiness, a Master of Arts in Happiness Studies, because you all have been clamoring for it. I know you have. You haven't been asking for tuition rates to come down. You haven't been asking for help with your student loan debt. What you have been asking for is, where are the master degrees in happiness studies? Well, good news, Sanitary University is here to help you with their fully accredited master's degree in happiness studies. Now, if you're like me, the first question that came to mind was, of course, what day is it? Is it still April 1st? And the answer is no, it is not April 1st. When I saw the ad, or even right now, it is not April 1st. What I then thought of, the second question that came to mind was, okay, what do you mean by happiness studies? Because I don't know if I would want an entire degree around it, but I could see where, maybe if a university had a class for me to audit on the psychology of happiness, where we could understand what makes us happy, what's going on in the brain that triggers happiness. What is happiness, right? Or a philosophy of happiness class where we get to look at, what have the great philosophers all said about happiness and its relation to the human existence, right? Please give me the existentialist class on happiness. Would love to know what Nietzsche had to say about happiness. Please tell me. But those kinds of classes, again, not really looking for an entire degree on those, but, given the opportunity to audit classes personally, okay, sure. That sounds like especially like the philosophy of happiness. Like I could see that being like a very quirky, one of these like summertime, or like a filler series here at My Seminary Life. I could see that kind of fitting in. Sure, why not? That sounds interesting. And sure enough, this program does have classes that kind of touches on the whole psychology and philosophy areas of happiness. But for the most part, what this class is dealing with is training you to be a leader, coach, person who focuses on happiness, both in themselves, in creating a happy working environment, having workers who are happy. This is a degree, a master's program for those who are interested in leadership, management, coaching, all of that kind of stuff. And I'll link to it in the description of this video if you want to go check it out all for yourself. And at the risk of beating a dead horse for those of you who have been around the show for a while, but, you got to work with this idea that maybe, there's people out there who are stumbling upon the show for the first time here. Hi. So at the risk of beating a dead horse, when it comes to this whole leadership thing, I think getting educated in leadership is extremely overrated, especially pastoral leadership. Like, if you want to spend your money on a doctorate of ministry in pastoral leadership, that's up to you. I have other things I would rather spend my money on. I think for the most part, especially within Christian leadership, the books all say the same thing. The information is all the same, and a lot of it's toxic. That's just kind of my take. If you want a hot take, that's my hot take. Most Christian leadership stuff is toxic because it's coming from megachurch pastors who were toxic behind the scenes. So that's just my take. But anyway, I think the whole leadership training in general is just kind of an overrated. This is coming from a guy who has taken a lot of leadership classes and read a lot of leadership books, and this was kind of a thing for me for a while until I realized, oh, these are all just saying the same thing. But now you can become a specialist in making sure everyone's happy while you're leading them. So I don't want to continue to beat this down, but I've been turning this over in my mind because I think there's a lot going on here, right? There's a lot of ways a lot of directions that we could take a conversation like this. The reality of the fact that here in the year of our Lord, 2024, there are universities that are offering accredited degrees, accredited master degrees at that, in happiness. There's a lot of ways that we can kind of go with this conversation. And I think the direction I want to go in kind of the reality, this is the reality we live in now, right? And I've been turning over in my mind here for a while now, what direction do I go with this? And I think the direction that I go is talking about how one of my new hypotheses at this point, I think it's hypotheses, is that courses, degrees, all of those things are the current equivalent of participation trophies. I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, so I have my fair share of participation awards. I've won my fair share of participation awards, which basically is an award that declares that you were there, you were a part of it. Of course, do you want to declare that you were a part of an 0-16 season? Maybe not, but here it is. Here's your even a trophy that declares the fact that you were a part of this. And as higher education continues to become more and more boofoo expensive, and at the same time, more and more content creators, are finding ways to leverage their skills to make courses and certifications, and with the existence of websites like Upskillist and other things like that, there are so many, there's almost innumerable, everything, it seems like you could get a certificate that says you are qualified to do this thing, right? You can go on Upskillist and get a digital certificate saying that you can do tarot reading. That's a thing. And I know that because I looked into doing it. You can, there's so many, even just odd courses, right? I don't think they offer it anymore, but there used to be a college near my house that they offered a college course on surviving the zombie apocalypse. There's a university out in Wisconsin, I don't think it's the University of Wisconsin, but there's a college in Wisconsin that offers a class on Tolkien's Elvish as your language at credits, right? Your language courses if you have a Bachelor of Arts. So there are so many. It's everything at this point. You can get, someone could say that, yeah, you're certified to do this thing. Some of you know that I'm a martial artist. I've been a lifelong martial artist. And for funsies, I've been reading this lately. This is a book that teaches you how to fight like Captain Kirk from the original Star Trek series, right? And from a martial artist standpoint, most of the moves in this book, not that effective. But there's a lot of good like principles in here still that are like, oh, that makes sense. There is, let's see if I can find it here at the end of the book. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. A certificate indicating that you have passed this class, this course, training manual on how to fight like Captain Kirk. And I bring this all up because, like, I don't know. We are just living in a time where it's all over the place, right? Like any content creator, I've seen content creators, Christian content creators who are offering classes in like raising the dead and like spiritual gifting. I've seen, for myself with my seminary life, when it's time to start a new series, I look for guests. I look for at least a book that I can read on the topic. And I do peruse a little bit to see, okay, who's got classes? When we did the Ancient Greece series, I took a course and now have a certificate on Athens and Sparta as a result of it. The upcoming Demonology series. Yeah, surprisingly, the upcoming Demonology series, I found a class on that. So I'm going to take that. But at the same time, when it comes to this whole, it's like this participation trophy thing, right? Because the thing about a participation trophy is that it really isn't much, right? Like it just declares that you were a part of something. And like in my mind, going back to the happiness studies thing for a bit, like, are people really getting jobs in upper management with a master's in happiness? Can I show up to a job interview with a handful of upskillist certificates to get a job in the business sphere? Like, it's so interesting because every content creator is trying to like leverage their skills to monetize it to make money and, sell classes and courses and all of that. And here's your piece of paper that says you can do a thing. I've even looked into that a little bit for my seminary life when it comes to homiletics, when it comes to preaching and teaching. Like I've looked into maybe, okay, should I build my own class on this kind of thing? But at some point, it's like a participation trophy. It is everywhere. And really, how valuable are these things? And obviously, this eventually gets into the much bigger conversation of where's the lie between getting educated to do a thing and going to do a thing to learn how to do a thing. That's the age-old argument, especially when it comes to seminary. I've heard it a lot of you don't go to school to learn how to be a pastor. You just go do it. And there are times where, as people bring up this argument where I'm like, yeah, you actually have really good points towards this of like, where is, how far should sitting under someone in an education environment, how much should that play a role in becoming a whatever, a pastor, a chef, a, Kirk Fu, instructional trainer person. Of course, I have discovered when it comes to the martial art world that there's like, it is highly regulated and not all at the same time. It's weird. But I even, as I kind of dug into this, is like, I got interested in the world of stage combat, like choreographing fights for TV, movie, theater, all of that. And I got down a whole rabbit trail of how there are now call sheets for people who have certifications in staged combat and even people who have been certified in intimacy. Like you have been specifically trained to do smoochy scenes. Like that's where we're at. And there is, again, coming back to this big question of not just like, is this all, how much of this is really like actually valuable training, valuable information and skills that you're learning, but this big question of like, where is this point of, yeah, you should go learn how to do a thing versus just go do the thing and figure it out as you go, right? So that's kind of where I'm at in all of this. I don't know if I really have an answer for all of us at this point. For those of us like me, for those of us out there who are very much like, we like the educational classroom. When I went to seminary, I did not realize I was picking a side in an argument that I did not know was going on. Truly, I did not know that there was such an anti-seminary presence out there. I just went to seminary. And when people brought up critiques about and attacked me about it, I became defensive and they called me out on that, and it was very triggering. But now I'm moving past it because I've learned that there is a big debate going on, and apparently I picked a side. Sorry, I try not to play a side. I will tell you where seminary has failed me. I will tell you where the seminary system has failed. Like, I'm not on their side, trust me. But I do like the education classroom. And so some of this, not all of it, but some of this does appeal to people who like, that's how they best learn, is like, okay, you're going to teach me how to do a thing, and I get a little reward at the end of it. I get a little treat. Yay for treats at the end of it. Cool. Versus there are people who like, they're not a part of that, and that's fine. They would rather go out, get their hands dirty, and figure it out. And you know what? That's admirable. That's worth applauding, that you went out there and you figured it out with your own hands. And I think we can maybe learn from each other here a little bit, especially those of us who are very education classroom focused, especially now in this time where there are certifications and courses and all of this stuff everywhere. With all of this stuff everywhere, I think those of us who are really into the classroom environment could really benefit from learning from those who go out there and get their hands dirty to learn a skill by going out there and getting our hands dirty and learning a skill. We all need to be aware on both sides of this argument that there's a lot of that people are looking for participation trophies on resumes or whatever, CVs, whatever, that say you know how to do a thing because someone taught you how to do a thing. We all do need to be aware of that. And like participation trophies, maybe someday this will also pop and we'll get over it. And every content creator won't be looking to leverage their skills. They're always going to try to leverage their skills to monetize it, aren't they? Yeah, they're going to always be doing that. Gross. Anyway, so I think for those of us who love the classroom environment, we need to go get our hands dirty a little bit more. And all of us need to realize that, like, unfortunately, because this is how the game is played at this point, we might have to, go get a random certificate from Joe Schmo so that way we can get a job or, look more professional or whatever. And if you don't care about those things, then don't worry about it, right? But can we all agree that we don't need a master's degree in happiness? Like, we can agree on that, right? Hopefully. So this whole rant is basically to get to this point of like, I think we're in a time where courses, certificates, even accredited degrees at this point are starting to become more and more participation trophies. Expensive participation trophies, but participation trophies nonetheless. And that maybe those of us, calling myself out here, who kind of enjoy this classroom environment, you can enjoy it still. I enjoy it, and I'm not ashamed of that. But maybe we just need to go get our hands a little dirty and learn how to do skills and try to I hate to use the whole pull yourself up by your bootstrap thing, because I don't think that's a very biblical concept at all, but just go out there and try to make it happen with the skills that we learn, and maybe and use a little bit of wisdom. We don't want to feed the machine, but at the same time, it's like, well, if this person is very well educated and knows the subject well, because that's the irony about this happiness degree. This person has spent a lot of time studying happiness. Maybe we could it's not necessarily a bad thing to learn from somebody who has devoted a lot of time to a subject. Things to wrestle with. I mentioned at the beginning of this that I was going to give you a prompt for the comment section, and here's the prompt. So if you want to leave a comment, here's the idea. Here's the thing. I want to know we'll use the word quirky. What other quirky programs, courses, or certifications, anything? I've name dropped a bunch of them in this episode. What other ones have you come across? And if we get enough, maybe I'll do a follow-up episode running down a bunch of these other quirky programs that are out there. But until next time, this is Brandon. Reminding you that you should check out the podcast sometime. So the podcast is on a little bit of a break right now until July 22nd through the 26th for the first ever Camp, My Seminary Life series, where we're going to be dealing with the topic of hermeneutics. Woohoo! This is a fun one for me. They're all fun, but I really like this topic. And you should check that out. If you've never checked out the podcast, since we're doing a little bit of a break right now, this is a good time to go back and get refreshed on what's been going on. Lately, just finished up a series on the topic of cults, running down 5 different cults. So go check that out if you're into that subject matter. If you'd like to support the show, please head down into the description of this episode to find the link to our shop, buy some merch, or you can go over to buymeacoffee.com/MSLpod. You can leave a one-time donation, or you can support the show monthly there as well. This is Brandon for today's video, signing off, reminding you as always that theology is for everyone, so keep on studying. But that doesn't mean you have to take a class on it. Just read a book or listen to a podcast or talk to somebody. You get the idea. Bye.